So on my show, Access to Anyone, the question that I ask every single guest is what I call the golden question. And that is, if you could have access to anyone, you got a chance to sit down with anyone you like, they have to be living, who would that one person be? And you all probably have some idea in your mind of who you'd like to connect with, what room you'd like to be in, but you also might be thinking to yourself, I'm not quite sure if that's even possible. And to tell the truth, I thought the same thing. When I moved to New York City, I was obsessed with Broadway, but having parents who were very, very strict, I had to have a day job. So that was being a high school English teacher at an all-boys Catholic high school on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So I was about as far away from Broadway as you could possibly imagine. I had no connections on a teacher's salary. I certainly wasn't writing any checks. And I didn't know anybody really in the industry. But then one day, I get an email that tells me about a panel of Broadway producers. And I get really, really excited about this because now I'm actually going to be in the room with Broadway producers. I'm going to be able to see Broadway producers. So I go to this panel. And I know the woman who runs the theater because I had rented the theater a number of times. So I go to this panel, I sit in the back, and I listen to these producers, and I am just amazed at all of the things that they share, all of the things that they talk about, and I want to be in that world. I really want access. That's the thing I'm so excited about. And the panel finishes, and I am super excited to go and talk to those producers, and this happens. And you've probably had these types of experiences before where there is this massive line of people all trying to speak to the speaker. So I'm standing in line thinking, I don't know if this is ever going to work out. I don't know what's going to happen. And my friend who runs the theater leans in and says, you know, all of these people want to meet these producers, but they're going to be at our Christmas party. And sure enough, I get invited to the Christmas party. So I go to the party, and there is one of the producers. I am so excited to see this woman, and I know I want to go over and I want to talk to her, and you've probably had this type of experience in your life as well, where you're just like, I would love to go over there, but oh my God, they're surrounded by a bunch of other people. And I saw her standing there, and I had this moment where I had this conversation with myself. And I said, if you don't go over there and you don't interrupt that conversation, you might as well forget about being a Broadway producer. So I got up the gumption, I walked over, and I said, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just loved what you had to say about producing. I've always been really interested in being a producer myself, and I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated what you shared. And she turned and she looked at me. She said, thank you so much. What do you do? And I had another one of these moments where I was like, well, what do I do? Do I share with her my background? Do I talk about producing? And instead I just said, well, you know, I'm a high school English teacher and I run the drama program. And she looked at me and she said, wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more. So I started having this conversation and we're talking and it's getting close to the time to leave. And she says, what are you doing tomorrow night? I said, I am on the wait list for a show. She says, no, you're not. You're coming with me. And she invites me to a gathering of the Broadway League. So I go from knowing no producers whatsoever to being in a room full of them. And here is what I learned from that experience. 3 things. Get out of line. Look for the windows and leverage the web. You see, every time we read a book and we really love what somebody has to say, or we listen to music and we think, I would love to talk to that person, and we don't reach out, we just sort of sit back, we join what I like to refer to as the longest line of all the other people who hit the snooze button on their dreams. And we have a choice every single day to get out of line. And that's always the first step when it comes to access, is will you get out of line? Are you willing to get out of line? Are you willing to go for it? No matter how scared you are, no matter how concerned you are. Second thing, look for the windows. Most of the time when we have an access problem, we see one way of approaching that problem. A door, if you will. And we all kind of jam ourselves through that same door. And if you think back to what I was talking about with the panel, that's exactly what happened. Everybody was jamming themselves through the same door. But my friend introduced me to a window. She introduced me to this idea of windows thinking. And there are windows everywhere, every time we have a problem that we're trying to solve. We can use windows thinking. There's always a Christmas party. Whenever there's some instance where you're trying to gain access, where you're trying to connect with someone, don't just look at the door, look at the windows. And the final thing is leveraging the web. When I went to that cocktail party, the doorway thinking is about find the most influential producer, connect with that person, climb the ladder, build your career. But that's not what I did. What I did instead was I talked to everybody there. And I asked them about themselves. I did what that producer did for me. She took an interest in me. And the thing about access is that most access problems can be solved with interest. If you just show that you're interested in someone, it opens up all sorts of channels, all sorts of worlds. So what is this web thing that I'm talking about? Every single one of us has a web. There are people that we are connected to from all sorts of different elements of our lives. Not only our professional world, but our personal world, the things that inspire us and excite us, the problems that we struggle with and the challenges that we have. There are all people connected to this web. And our job is to be a web spinner, to connect people to each other. And that's exactly what I did at that cocktail party. I found out more about the producers. I would introduce them to each other. I would introduce them to people at the party. I would let them know about events, just like that producer had done for me. And the thing is, we all have a web. We all have the ability to be web spinners, to make those connections. But here's the interesting thing about that when it comes to access. We can leverage the web. When I needed to raise money, when I was actually working on Broadway projects, that's what I did. I went to the web and I asked. I asked for help. I asked for support. But here's the thing about asking. It's hard. And for many of you, you may be thinking to yourself, yeah, I'd love to reach out to this person, or I'd love to connect to this person, but how do I ask? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Most of us are taught the wrong way to ask. We're taught to ask directly. We're taught to go to somebody and say, will you do this thing for me? And I'm going to introduce you to a different way to think about asking. I want you to start trying asking indirectly. When you ask directly, you say to someone, can you do something for me? When you ask indirectly, you present a problem or a challenge, and you ask someone, will you be a thought partner with me? Will you use your creativity to help me solve this problem? To help me figure this thing out? And when you do that, you engage somebody else's creativity. We limit the things we get in life when we limit other people's creativity. And here's the best question that you can ask. Do you have any ideas? Very, very few people will ever say no. Because who wants to say they don't have any ideas? I mean, look where we are, right? When you ask somebody for ideas, they're going to show you those windows. They're going to help you see all the different opportunities and all the different possibilities. You can have access to anyone. And I'll leave you with this. The keys to all the doors that you need open are in other people's pockets. Right now, in this room, in this moment, there is somebody who can solve your access problem. There is somebody who knows the person that you're dreaming of meeting. Everybody's a celebrity to somebody, but celebrity is relative to everybody. You never know who other people know. But what's even more powerful, and what I want you to consider, is that while there are tons of people out there who can help you, you also right now are sitting with keys in your pocket. The experiences that you have had in your life, the things that you've learned, the ideas that you have could transform someone else's life. We need your ideas. You can create not only access to anyone, but you can create access for everyone in your world. We can help anyone if we ask enough questions. And it all comes down to stop climbing higher ladders and just work on spinning a bigger web. Thank you.